Like you said, I used to be so ripped. I used to diet all the time. I used to exercise all the time, but I had a pressure to do so because of obviously modelling. And that only stopped when I came out of Love Island. When my sort of eating habits took over and the training stopped and other things sort of got in the way, I ballooned in weight. I always said when I was thin, I'd be a fat person if I didn't. Or if I took my foot off the gas, I'd go, because I knew I fluctuated easily. Really, I never cared how I look. I still don't really care how I look. I cared how I felt. And when I gained all that weight, I felt like crap. Like real bad joint pains, and I've got digestive issues and stuff now, and this is from eating. But when I gained weight, all of that got worse. It got to the point where I was trying to play with my kids and do stuff like that, and I felt old. I felt like I'd aged 10 years just by gaining a lot of weight in a year. I'm really on quite a severe diet now. I've been fully carnivore for 11 or 12 weeks. It's only meat, cheese, eggs, dairy, stuff like that. The reason I've landed on that is because I've been trying so many diets because I've had such bad digestive problems. I know I've got arthritis. I've been looking into what all of that is all about. And I've just been on a mission to make myself fundamentally feel better. I've got to say I enjoy more than anything being a dad. And that is now my motivation, is to turn myself into healthy, happy and capable. Not only for sport, because I want to box again, I want to do these things, but for my kids and for my whole family, for Cam and just for my life in general, because I've really started to realise now all I want to do is live a quiet life and be a good dad.
Right, welcome back to the podcast, Steve Sully's Study, here at Woodbury House Art Gallery in Mayfair, and I've got a wicked guest in front of me, Mr. Jamie Jewitt. Thank you very much for your time, mate, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
Me too. I thought that clap was going to be a little round of applause from yourself, man. You clapped me in, I was like, don't. Yeah, not that I deserve a round of applause, but it's funny, I do these things and I'm like, why do I even still do this? But I forget, I was on a show about 7 years ago. And now I'm hanging on to the bottom of the Z list, going around doing what I do for a living. But no, I haven't done a podcast in a long time, so I'm excited to have a chat, mate. And I've watched your podcast, and I've been chatting to you for a little while now.
We have. And listen, you've done some really, really cool stuff, which I think we're going to get into. I'm going to start off the podcast in a slightly different way, just because of recent things that have happened over the weekend. Should we start with the conversation, Donald Trump being nearly assassinated, or England losing the final?
Oh, fucking hell. Which one's worse? Well, going in heavy. Well, look, I'll tell you one thing about the football. I'm not a football fan. I never have been a football fan, but this tournament was the first tournament I've ever watched properly. Again, I'm one of them people that'll go to the pub for a bit of atmosphere and stuff when the football's on, but I never knew what was going on, who was on the field or anything like that. But I think now, a symptom of having 3 kids and having not a lot of other stuff to do with my spare time, the football was a bit of an escape, but I actually proper got into it. So yeah, I watched most of the games. And for me, from an untrained eye, I didn't think England were doing that great. I thought they were really negative. I thought it was tough to watch. I sat and watched the first few games and I thought, Jesus Christ, is this what England fans have to put up with? So they kept getting into their end and then doing bugger all with the ball, weren't attacking. But the last couple of games they played really well. And again, that's twice in the final now, isn't it? It was the last Euros we were in the final, was it? And that's when Germany beat us on pens. Yeah. So I'm doing my research now. Now I'm a football fan and all. But yeah, like I said, it was close, and I think we played really well against Spain. I thought, the last game, was it Netherlands? First half, we played really, really aggressively and really well. Yeah. And then this last final, I think there were shades of that. There wasn't as much of it, but again, you're against a much better team. I thought it was a really good one. But to say that, I'm looking forward to the next ones now. I'm not going to get into Premier League football just yet, but it was enjoyable. Yeah. It was good.
I'm on the same side of the coin as you. My sort of passion is towards boxing. Mm-hmm. Have a little bit of interest in football. I'm a Chelsea fan, but when I say Chelsea fan, I say that quite sort of a bit reserved about it. It's not my ultimate passion, but to see the country get behind our team and get to the final was a really, really cool thing. The last thing I'll say about it, I think when we equalised, when Palmer scored the goal, I thought maybe we might get to penalties and maybe do them there. But ultimately, in sport, there has to be a winner, there has to be a loser. And Spain, hands down, are a better team.
They were better. 100% they were better. More dangerous every time they had the ball, especially in our half. They had the ball most. The passes were cleaner, all of that stuff. And it's like I said, I don't know the game very often, but it was quite clear they were just a little bit sharper. So, but yeah, it was a good game, man.
So
you're boxing.
Yeah, boxing.
That's a bit of me.
We're going to definitely talk about boxing. Let's just actually jump straight into boxing. There was a time, I believe, that you mentioned that you may turn into a professional boxer.
Oh yeah, that was a while back when I was a lot lighter and a lot fitter. Yeah, I had a couple of offers, and then I sort of dropped the ball a bit. I had kids, gained a load of weight, but I did end up having a boxing match, and it was a white collar one against Dan Osborne, and I was useless. So I'm glad I didn't go pro and get beaten up there. But I must say there was it's funny because I've boxed since I was a kid, and I've been in and out of gyms. I had my amateur card on 2 separate occasions, and I never fought, but I was doing it alongside modelling. But it was always the one sport that I loved, and I used to love travelling around sparring, doing these bits and bobs. But it got to the point where I would travel to other countries, and anytime I wanted to focus any time on it, I would have other things going on the sidelines, which meant I couldn't really get punched in the face a lot. So I was always sort of torn between 2 different things. So I never really dived into it fully. And then once I came out of Love Island, I sort of started spending a lot more time, because I had the luxury to be able to do that. I spent a lot more time boxing, went to a gym in Sidcup called Amigos and trained with a lad there who was great. I trained with a guy, Derek Williams, for a little while as well, and just sort of met some really cool people, and I knew quite a few people in the industry anyway. And then a couple of people came and threw the idea about turning over to pro. I think more so what that was as well, now I look back on it, was I had a big platform, probably could have sold some tickets and made some people some money, but back then I would have loved to have done it, but yeah, just sort of procrastinated a bit too long, and then ended up having kids, and then ballooned in weight, and that kind of dream sort of subsided a little bit. But
I was gonna mention, like, you know, doing my research into yourself, you were like uber fit, ripped geezer. Then fast forward the clocks, that kind of image slightly fell off. And when you were walking through the door, I was thinking, what type of Jamie are we gonna see here? Are we gonna see more the dad bod Jamie, or maybe the old school model Jamie? And it looks like you've really knuckled down and tried to get yourself really back into shape, mate.
That's just a black t-shirt, mate. That's right. It's slimming, isn't it? I'm glad you said that, because I have. That I must say, current me, one of my main focuses, and this is in business as well as everything else, is health. And that's because I've proper struggled with my health, and that's from an aesthetic standpoint, like weight and that. I've never ever focused on that, never ever cared, but also just sort of poor eating, and I think it's because I used to, like you said, I used to be so ripped. I used to diet all the time. I was on a different diet all the time. I used to exercise all the time, but I had a pressure to do so because of obviously modelling. I had to be a lot slimmer, and that only stopped when I came out of Love Island. And then, yeah, when my sort of eating habits took over and the training stopped and other things sort of got in the way, namely kids, I ballooned in weight. I always said when I was thin, I'd be a fat person if I didn't. Like, if it was up to me, or if I took my foot off the gas, I'd go, because I knew I fluctuated easily. But yeah, I gained a shitload of weight. And then I started doing this dad bod diaries thing where I was trying to get back down. But the thing for me was, I never cared how I look. I still don't really care how I look. I cared how I felt. And when I gained all that weight, I felt like crap. Like I genuinely did. And like I was talking to you earlier, but I've got arthritis in my knees, like real bad joint pains. And I've got digestive issues and stuff now, and it's just from eating. But when I gained weight, all of that got worse. And it got to the point where I was trying to play with my kids and do stuff like that. And I felt old. I felt like I'd aged 10 years just by gaining a lot of weight in a year. So now I'm like, it's a crazy time to do it, but now I've just had my 3rd kid. We've got 3 under 4 now, which is enough of a what would you say, like a time-consuming sort of crazy situation to be in. But I've really been focused since I know how unhappy I am and unhealthy I feel to get back into shape. And as the new kids arrived, I'm thinking what usually I would do, and I think this is a symptom of a lot of people out there, what I would do is find a reason why now's not the time to do it. And having 3 under 4 is probably the biggest reason I could have ever given myself to be like, I have a couple of years, we'll do it in a couple of years' time. But I'm 34 now, and I know as much as that's not massively advanced in age, like there's no reason to keep procrastinating. So I've been looking into it.
Take a breather from the busy metropolitan life. Recover after training hard and trade the pub in for a new social experience. Away from toxins and temptations. In the heart of central London, Rebase offers saunas, ice baths, red light therapy, yoga, breathwork, massages, and many, many more treatments. Open to walk-ins and also offering memberships. Achieve elemental balance at Rebase London through a bespoke program of precision treatments, structured classes, and shared experiences. Experience a novel approach to lasting well-being at Rebase in London. London's new home to social wellness.
I'm really on quite a severe diet now. I've been fully carnivore for 11 or 12 weeks. I say fully carnivore, I was doing a little bit of fruit and veg, but up until about 2 weeks ago, I cut that out completely. So it's only meat, cheese, eggs, dairy, stuff like that. And the reason I've landed on that is because I've been trying so many diets because I've had such bad digestive problems. I know I've got arthritis. I've been looking into what all of that is all about, and I've just been on a mission to make myself fundamentally feel better. Because one thing that's changed my life, and the reason I've saying about this being a big part of my life at the moment and with business, my kids changed my life completely. They've changed my outlook on everything. They've changed my day-to-day living. They've changed my ambitions. And I've got to say I enjoy more than anything being a dad. And I want to be able to be a really good dad. And I knew that all of the things I was doing to my body, and I've been used to abusing myself over the years, countless different things. Now's the time at this age. I'm not getting any younger. I'm not going to get any healthier overnight. But it's the most important time of my life to be the best version of me. And that is now my motivation, is to turn myself into a machine at this age, healthy, happy, and capable. Not only for sport, because I want to box again, I want to do these things, but for my kids and for my whole family, for Cam, and just for my life in general, because I've really started to realise now all I want to do is live a quiet life and be a good dad. And I don't think people understand just how much looking after yourself is key and paramount to whatever the fuck it is you want to focus on. So yeah, that's kind of, I'm on a real, and thanks for noticing, but like I've actually stuck to it for like a few months. And the carnivore diet's a big thing to thank for that, for me sticking to it. It's the diet I've enjoyed the most. And it's had some unbelievable effects on my body so far.
You're looking, I've got to say, mate, you're looking very, very well, and you've got a good shape about you, and I think your height helps you as well. So credit and kudos to you, mate.
No, I appreciate it, man.
I know off air we was having a bit of a warm up podcast, and we were talking about the diet. Yeah. So you've been vegan. You've been vegetarian. And now you're carnivore. Which one makes you feel the best version of Jamie Jewitt?
Right. I am going to make sure that is a nuanced answer, because there are other factors. Now, I have never felt better than on this carnivore diet. But that's because the last 2 or 3 years I've had chronic diarrhea, chronic gas, acid reflux I've had my whole life, but I've got joint pain, I've got all this sort of stuff. But these digestive problems I never had. I had irritable bowel-ish, do you know what I mean? Over the years, I've noticed certain things I eat bloat me and all that, but everyone does. But recently it got bad. Like every day I'd have to have Rennies or an omeprazole. Every day I'd feel like I had diarrhea, I had like rolling guts. I'd gas. It was horrendous, and poor old Cam would have to deal with it as well. Bless her. But those issues were not so much there when I went vegan. So I can't say now I feel absolutely unbelievable. I feel strong. I feel fit, more energy than I've had in a long time. My digestive problems have completely cleared up. Like, I've not had acid reflux. I've not had, like, all my bowels, everything have got better. I barely pass wind twice a day now, which is another side effect of this. But the most fascinating thing to me, and I'm not doing this to sell this diet to anybody because I understand the controversy and I agree with a lot of it. My joints have completely gone in, I would say, gone. Like, my arthritis, my pain in both knees has gone. I've still got a little bit of creakiness in my right knee, but even the sounds and the squeaks and the creaks that my left knee used to do is gone. So that to me has been mind blowing. And no other diet did that. So the carnivore diet now, I would say, is the best one for me, but that's because I had some easily tangible issues that it solved. Whereas I may have gone vegan back then, when if these issues had come, that might have solved it as well. Do you know what I mean? I don't know, so I can't exactly put a fair comparison in. But back when I went vegan, I felt amazing. Like, I felt really switched on. I remember the whites in my eyes went clear, my skin really cleared up. One thing I did, and I've said this to anyone who knows me that knows me when I went vegan, one thing I would say is I lost a lot of muscle mass, really in good shape, lost a lot of strength, lost a lot of muscle mass. I was running long distances then because I could, so my cardiovascular fitness was brilliant. But yeah, I lost a lot of size and a lot of strength. But again, I know that's may have been the vegan that I was doing. There's some people know how to do it well to gain muscle and do all this sort of stuff. So I've kind of seen both sides of the argument, or both sides of those diets. For me personally, at this moment in my life, this has been absolutely life-changing. But I'm going to keep an eye on it because I know about bad cholesterol, high blood pressure, all these things people talk about relating to meat and cheese and high fat and stuff. I've looked at a lot of studies, read a lot of books that say a lot of that is very misguided, corrupt. Like, the reasons we believe those things, there's a lot of stuff about pharmaceutical companies and certain big businesses, certain big corporations and food corporations that fund certain studies to tell you not to eat certain things so they can sell you certain other things. You can go down a fucking rabbit hole on that stuff. But saying that, you know, cutting out vegetables for me still to this moment gives me a bit of anxiety. It feels weird, but until it starts to have a detrimental effect, I'm going to give it a go. I'll always find my own truth. I think it's the best way for anyone to do anything, but I'm doing it with a bit of vigilance, because I do see, you know, it could be very well true listening to the doctors. They all say it for a reason. Like I've said, the reasons sometimes are a little bit manipulated, but I'm just going to keep an eye on my health. But at this precise moment, it has been absolutely game-changing for me.
Yeah.
So, and just a note on that, because I think it's important for anyone, because I don't want someone to listen to this and go, just in case they do, and go, oh, I'm going to go big carnivore. It's important that you understand where to get vitamins and stuff, because meat has got most of the stuff you need. It's not going to have a load of the phytonutrients and vitamins and bits and bobs. So there's an argument about vegetables and fruit, you needing them for the phytonutrients and all that sort of stuff. That's true to an extent. If you eat liver, organs, hearts and stuff like this, that's where all the vitamins are in the animal. If you went around just eating breast meat, you're going to be deficient in a lot of stuff. So that's a key thing to remember. And it's funny because we now think organs are gross, yet they're the most nutrient-dense part of the animal. So if you ate, as a carnivore, what do they call it, nose to hoof or whatever it is, ate the whole animal, you'd be absolutely fine. If anything, thriving with every single thing you could possibly need in a diet. Whereas if you went carnivore in a modern day and just ate breast and all that all the time, you are going to be deficient. So it's kind of knowing how to do the diet that you're doing. So yeah.
I think that's definitely an important point. I mean, I was recommended as well, being a pescatarian, eating clams, mussels, oysters, lobster, prawn, anything like a shellfish basically, has all the nutrients inside of it. And I've got to say, when I have like things like oysters and mussels, I do actually feel kind of more upbeat. I don't know whether it's a placebo effect, but
weird. It's hard to know, isn't
it's
it?
really hard. But I do honestly feel, because I don't eat that sort of stuff all the time, because it's hard to do indoors. It's mostly when I go to a restaurant. But I do feel like that I have a bit of a lift in energy. Going back to being overweight, at the height of your, let's say, where you were overweight, how much did you weigh?
I believe my heaviest was 109 kilograms. I only do it in kilograms. So putting that into perspective, I was 80 kilos when I went on Love Island. So 29 kilograms I gained, and I gained it in about a year, which I think, what's it in, so is that 5 or 6 stone? It's like 5 stone, something.
Yeah, I'm not very good at
29
that.
kilos.
I
I
always
have to Google it. I think it's about 5.5 kilos a stone. If I'm wrong, or 6 kilos a stone. 6, 12, 18, 24. Put it this way, it's around 5 stone that I gained. And like you said earlier, I'm tall. So look at pictures back then. There's a picture of me I took in the camera. I'm clearly gained a lot of weight, but I carried it all right the way up there as I was gaining it, because I was tall. I carried it before it was super noticeable. And with yourself, it's the same thing as when you're trying to lose weight and you're going to the gym. When you're looking in the mirror every day, you never notice the results. So it's easy to gain weight because you look in the mirror every day. So flip that on its head. Like, you get big quick because you don't notice yourself getting big. But yeah, it was a pretty shit time to realise that I'd let myself go that much. And it was because I noticed it, because I felt really shit. And I think the key takeaway from me with that, and I've always known this because I've always trained and I've always been health conscious and I've always been on and off and up and down, in and out of diets and all this sort of stuff. So I've had a lot of trial and error. And I've had a lot of mental health problems. There is an absolute connection, if not almost borderline, saying that mental and physical health are the same thing. They're one and the same. If one slips, the other will slip. And people say, oh no, but there's loads of like in shape people. Just because you're in shape, it doesn't mean you're healthy. Like, I'm not just talking about getting fat. I'm like talking about eating poorly, doing things to your body, sleeping bad, like treating yourself crap, eating the wrong foods, eating poisonous crap, eating processed stuff. All of these things, whether you're in shape or not, can do things to your inside, your brain chemistry, all that sort of stuff, and make you unhealthy. And every time I've done things that made me unhealthy, this would suffer just as much, if not more, than my body. So that's the key for me these days. I'm like, this is like, getting back in shape has just been a symptom of me trying to transform my health for all the reasons I said earlier. And that's like, yeah, I think that's the biggest lesson about that. And that is, I know how horrible it was and how horrible it feels for a lot of people out there who are physically unhealthy. And I know how unhealthy they'll be up there because of it. So it's like, I think it's important. I think it's important we talk more about that connection and less about this. There's a lot of mental health conversation. People don't talk nearly enough about the fact that those two are the same, if not kind of, the way to help it, the way to help one can actually be the exact way to, the remedy for one's the remedy for the other as well. Like going and exercising, not only are you going to burn some calories, but you're going to get an endorphin release, you're going to change your brain chemistry, you're going to feel motivated, you're going to do all these things to yourself, which ultimately are all mental things. But, we only ever think running, lose weight, like therapy, mental health. It's like they're not mutually exclusive like that. Do you know what I mean? They're kind of, so yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, getting into shape, being healthy and trying to be the best version of you is kind of a lifestyle. I know that sounds a bit cheesy, but equally, eating poorly, being fat, overweight and having an abusive relationship with drink or food, etc., is also a lifestyle choice. 100%. And sometimes I understand that to fall out of one of them and go into the other one is sometimes it feels like a big decision. But once you're in it, for good or bad, you can, if you want to get into the positive side of it, it becomes quite addictive and it is a lifestyle. And then other opportunities manifest off the back end of it, because you're oozing this positive energy, and I really do believe in that.
I just quickly, you made me think of something there, and I was speaking to somebody about this, and I think this is another thing that some people need to hear. They are both lifestyle choices, but I would almost argue in 2024 that I would look at an unhealthy lifestyle to be more normal and the default setting if you're born into the world now. The food you buy off the shelves, the things you're told to prioritise, the way you're taught in school, the way we go to school, the way you do jobs, the sedentary lifestyle we lead. The default setting, by no fault of anybody's own, is actually really unhealthy for us. So the other lifestyle choice is almost like it's there, and like I wish more people would realise that. And there's always an excuse like, oh, I can't do this kind of thing. It's procrastination. But just know that it's not your fault if you're unhealthy. That is the default setting, unfortunately, with modern times. But fuck me, can you change it? And you will feel amazing. And that's whether you're at home thinking, oh yeah, but I've only got mental health problems, I don't need to get into shape. I'm not talking about getting in shape, like I said. It's about getting healthy. And trust me, get healthy, exercise, not to get into shape, to get healthy, we'll sort this out as well. 9 times out of 10, if you're struggling with something, you may well be, if you're very honest with yourself, not very healthy. And I think that is something over the years that I've really had ingrained in my head. And again, the reason this is all so important to me now is I've got 3 kids. Like, I want to kind of them to grow up and for me to take all of the rights and wrongs that I've done through my life, make sense of it, and be able to give them sort of knowledge from it to help them out. And yeah, this is the sort of journey I'm on at the moment. It's a massive, big old health overhaul. And I love it because I'm doing it at a time where apparently everything goes downhill. So I think...
Well, you see, I mean, Dana White, Eddie Hearn, I mean, there's so many people that have made this switch in their late 30s, 40s and even 50s. And now looking at them, they look like juggernauts. They look absolutely like almost like the perfect version of their self. And what I was going to interject and say, Jamie, is it's not just the training and eating and everything else. There's a bit of a trend at the moment with like ice bathing and saunas. And only when you actually start researching the science behind it, you go, I get it now. It's not just the physical benefits, but it's how that connects to the mental and your sort of your gut, and how you can actually make better decisions because you're doing things like that. You know, if you're pumping your body with, let's call it artificial sugar or processed foods, etc., that could actually lead on to making a bad business or family decision because there's the wrong readings within your body. And yeah, I just think the training, the saunas, the ice baths, going for fresh long walks and eating all the right stuff and drinking mostly water, I think you're going to see a big difference.
Yeah. Put it this way, I'm not exaggerating. You're absolutely right. And again, talking about linking things that people say they're not linked. Yes, they are linked. Health, mental health, same thing in my eyes, give or take. But saying that your business or your life or your work or your intelligence or your motivation, your drive won't be linked to what you eat is mad. If I know for a fact now, if I ate pasta, but I'm not talking about unhealthy stuff, judging by what we've been taught, if I ate bread, like pasta, like I'm talking about Hovis in a packet that a lot of people, or cereal for breakfast, anything like that, it will have so many different effects on me. I know I will get bad stomach, brain fog, like lack of motivation. I'll find it hard to wake up. I'll feel bloated and swollen. It will feel legitimately like a severe hangover. There are so many people out there, and a lot of people aren't supposed to eat that stuff. There's so many people out there that will be waking up and putting their brain fog, low mood, low motivation, not wanting to get out of bed, down to like any form of like, oh, I'm just really struggling at the moment or whatever it may be. I'm not saying that people aren't, but I'm saying there'll be so many people out there that will not even understand that the food that they have been told or deemed to be okay for them is making them feel like that. And I wholeheartedly believe that. And I just wish more people made that sort of link. And like you've said, if I do eat that sort of stuff, I won't be motivated. So my whole week, so say I ate that every morning, my productivity for that week is going to go down, and everything that I'm trying to do for my life as a result will suffer from it.
Yeah, it's just like I've had people stay over my house recently, and I don't ever eat breakfast. I always try and fast up until about 12:30, and then eat. The only thing I've eaten today is a banana just before the podcast,
here, yeah.
and I've had 2 double espressos. That's all I've had. And I'm not saying I've cracked it, and I'm not saying I've got the right system, but I'm just trying to tweak and adjust where I can. And anyway, woke up in the morning, went down to my kitchen. The shredders on the side, which we never buy. It was the people that were staying there. And then, like white bread toast with loads of jam on it. And like even my old man, right? He'll be like, yeah, you got to eat pasta if you're gonna, you're gonna be training for this, training for that. And I'm like, it's all the old school stuff that they told you, which is really, really good for you and really, really healthy. In actual fact, a lot of this stuff is all processed. It's going to cause an insulin spike, which is going to make you crave more crap and make you more tired. It's so ironic. The thing that they told you to eat, pasta, because it's meant to give you long, sustainable energy, is actually the thing that's going to give you an insulin spike and make you crave more sugar.
Yeah, it's crazy. You go down a rabbit hole, but like the insulin thing's a massive one. The fact that most of them grains and stuff, your body can't digest that stuff very well anyway. It's actually really bad for your gut, deteriorates your gut. But then there's there's so much other stuff that's going to do to your body. There's a glycemic index looking at that, low and high glycemic foods, and again that's to do with insulin spikes. But that myth that you need carbohydrates to train, and again I don't want to sound fanatical, because I don't want anyone to go and try something on the basis of what I'm doing, because I don't know everything. I know what's working for me right now. I had a testosterone test, and I've had a couple of them, and Cam can vouch for this. Over the last few years, when I had all these issues, when I felt like shit, I had the gut issues, but I had real low mood, real lack of motivation, felt real heavy. And this is even when I was losing weight. It wasn't that. It was something else was unhealthy. So I was really paranoid that I had low testosterone, because I look in the effects of that, and I'm at that age where it depletes and all this stuff scientifically and biologically. I know I'm at the age where it's going to drop. So I had a couple of testosterone tests, and frustratingly, I got them from this company, and both of them were, inconclusive. So I never actually got my reading back, but it was something I was so focused on looking at. Since I've been on this carnivore diet, which is another reason why I tried this one, because it was like, it's known to raise your testosterone levels. I'm thinking, well, that's another benefit of giving this a go, because it's something I've been, suspected of being low in. I am not interested in having a testosterone test right now. I know for a fact that has gone through the roof as well. And like many reasons, my training, and I'm not having a single carbohydrate, not a single shred of sugar, not even from fruit. My training,
no rice, nothing.
No, nothing but fat and meat. I ran 12k the other day, piss easy. I'm doing boxing. I'm stronger and hitting harder than I've ever hit. I'm more explosive, and I can feel the aggression. Borderline, I've felt a little bit mood swingy sometimes, which again is a symptom of testosterone. I've got a spot which I haven't had in frigging years. Like genuinely, again, something that testosterone can do. And yeah, I just, morning glory, unfortunately, has come back tenfold, which had completely stopped. So stuff like even that, but these are all signs of my testosterone. I feel like I'm going through puberty again. It's mad. And that's all done from diet. Now, I'm not saying, like I said, there may be other side effects of eating the extreme way that I'm eating right now. But what I'm trying to get at is you can heal so much about yourself. And I'm not saying it's just carnivore, whatever diet you do, but I think the common denominator is stop the processed crap. Stop the highly processed carbohydrates, the sugar and insulin spiking things. Like take packeted foods, high shelf life stuff. All of this stuff has been manipulated so much. that, whether vegan or because like I said, I know I felt amazing vegan as well. Different sort of attributes I would give to that. But the common denominator was when I'd done both of those, I cut all of the shit out. And my not only physical health, but my mental health that I've suffered with on and off over the years has rectified itself and got me to a point where I'm like, and even at 34 now, I feel better than I ever remember feeling. I've got a bad memory, but I feel amazing now. But I really do understand now that what you put in your body and how you treat yourself can solve so many of your physical and mental health problems. And I think that needs to be so much more spoken about rather than medication and therapy and all these sorts of stuff. I'm not saying don't go and get medication if you need it, or don't go and get therapy. I still see a therapist now. And that was for drinking. Like I had a drinking problem. These things, they're important, but what I'm saying is start right at the basis and see if that way you can fix yourself, because I wholeheartedly believe 99% of you could fix yourself with simple things, without doctors, without science, without all of that stuff, going back to basics.
Yeah, agreed.
Because like I said, the default setting these days is unhealthy. And that's just a fact.
I've listened to a few podcasts that you've done with other podcasters, a few years back, and it appears that they're going back to what we consume. It's not just about what we put in our mouth, food and drink, but it's also about what we're watching, what we're reading, and who we're consuming information from. And I'm 38, Jamie, and I'm old enough but young enough to remember life way before Instagram and social media and stuff, and I'm pretty sure you are too. And it seems from listening to some of your interviews, you probably have had a love-hate relationship, but it started probably from a hate point of view, but it's actually helped you along the way with your other businesses. As a model, am I right in saying that they tried to almost force on you to use social media and you refused to use it?
I hated it, and I hate it to this day. I really do not like social media. It's necessary for me. I wish I did. I wish I liked it. I understand what people like about it. I understand how beneficial it can be. But I've just got a real... It's hard because I'm like, it's so hypocritical being in the position I'm in and saying I don't like social media. It pays my bills. And that's kind of why I do it. But I also really, really like the fact that it's there when I want to help people and do things that I want to do and speak about things that I want to speak about. But ultimately, I don't believe that all of the negatives outweigh all the positives. But yeah, back then when I was in modelling, I had the same love-hate relationship with modelling and with fashion, to be honest. I thought it was all superficial, getting paid for the way I looked. I thought it was ridiculous. The ego that came with it, like how easy the money was. I felt like I wasn't proud of what I was doing. I had like family at home that worked their ass off, and I went and had a few pictures taken of me and I started getting paid for it. And I just felt like a fucking pushover, getting handed everything on a platter. I didn't like the ego of the world. I didn't like the superficial bullshit of standing in a casting and being validated or being paid for something I had no control over or didn't achieve or earn. And I didn't like the ego it carried, like from everything from the people that designed the clothes down to the models, and Zoolander is bang on. Everyone starts getting obsessed with their own looks and like all of that I hated. And that's modelling itself. And when Instagram came out, I remember it because all the models started doing it and taking selfies. And obviously they were getting a lot of followers straight off the bat. Because they were good looking. And it just fed into what I hated about the job I was doing anyway. It was like peddling superficiality, creating a currency around bullshit things that don't matter, that take away from like real depth of character or talent or skill or anything like that. It just sort of fed that. So when it first came out, all the models sort of got loads of followers and they started getting booked for jobs, because before that you would turn up to a casting with your portfolio and that'd have your photos in it. That'd be the only determining factor of whether you're going to get the job or not. And then Instagram came along, so take selfies and love yourself and show everyone how pretty you are and all that, would get you followers, and then you'd have your own audience that you were now bringing with that book. So when you show them, oh, this, I like your look, oh, how many followers have they got? 100,000. Oh, sweet. So when we put a picture of them, we're carrying 100,000 people already in their pockets. So that started to become a defining factor in what would book you jobs. But I refused to do it. I refused to get Instagram because anytime I took a selfie, I felt like a prat. And it wasn't even just a prat. I felt like I was doing the very thing that I fucking hate. And it's just peddling superficial values. And this was where, fast forward to Love Island, I was pretty severe depression, drinking problems, all sorts of things going on in my life because of living in a world that I depended on because I didn't do anything else. I'd been modelling since I was 15. So I had no other skills. And needing it, but hating it, and not playing ball when Instagram came around. So my career went even worse. And I moved home back to my parents' house because I just didn't want to be a part of that world anymore. And then got offered to go on Love Island. That's why I said no when I first got a phone call to go on there. Because I'm like, this is just going to go into more of what I don't like. And I'd done a reality show when I was modelling. And this reality show was the most set up and manipulated load of shit I've ever been involved in my life. It was good fun at certain points, but again, it weren't a good experience on the most part, and it was just another extension of all of that stuff. So, but when it came to Love Island, I was like, I don't want to get involved in it. I've just sort of come home to get away from this, sort my head out, sort all my problems out, and then I got a phone call for that, and that's why I said no and went in kicking and screaming for that. I don't know if you probably heard the story of that. But yeah, they asked me to go on, and I'd never watched it. My dad watched it, so I knew who Camilla was. I remember them two mentioning that she was sort of similar to me, or I'd get on with her. But yeah, they asked me, and I said no. And then a couple of days later, I got loads of missed calls from them, and they were like, "Oh, you can just fly out here and chat to us. You don't have to sort of commit to anything." And I got there, and I was speaking to them, and didn't want to do it. I was supposed to go in the night that I landed with Theo. Really didn't want to do it, and then said I'm not doing it. So I pushed it back the next day. I said I want to go home. And this lad who was the exec producer knew me from that show before. Because he knew me quite personally, he was talking to me like, oh, I could sort of help you out and all this stuff. And he was being, sort of good, trying to help me into it. But eventually I rang my dad because I spoke to the on-site psychologist. She said I was suffering from depression most likely and probably should think about it, and maybe it's not the right thing to do. And eventually I just rang, it was my dad on the phone call, and I remember I could hear it in his voice how much he wanted me to go because I was in such a fucking hole, such a funk. And eventually after like delaying the set for God knows how long and everything, I just thought fuck it, and then just gave him my phone in the end and then walked in, and that's all she wrote. And I got a wife and 3 kids out of it. So it's a whole nother side of that story. But that was the reason, that whole extension of being of the superficiality of Instagram. And now that's why I've got such a love-hate relationship with being an influencer. Like I'm the worst influencer in the fucking world. I'll go weeks without posting and I'll get phone calls. You need to post, you need to do this. Oh, fucking, I'm doing it all reluctantly. And every time I sell a bath bomb or I just feel like an idiot because I don't have a good relationship with the platform and with selling myself in a superficial way. So yeah, it's a weird one, but like, that's a story. I've gone through the whole thing from the beginning. But yeah, that's my thing with social media, and I'm not even I haven't even touched on the way it peddles misinformation, the way it causes trolling, causes jealousy. It shows a really horrific light on the mindset and the mentality of most of the population. Can be fucking nasty when they want to be, when they're triggered. It really gives you a pretty somber look on the world and the people in it. And that's another side of it. Like, it's just without even going into that, it's like the superficiality as well as it really exposes the horrible nature of people when they're not in a good place.
Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't at the moment. So, yeah, so
Going back to my first question right at the start, even though I don't know loads about it and I'm not into politics whatsoever, the attempt of the assassination of Donald Trump, I mean, even if you look at this guy's profile, right, yeah, he said some crazy things and he's probably believes certain things that I don't agree with, but there's quite a lot of stuff from a business point of view that makes a lot of sense. And, you know, he's this big bad monster, you know, the media portray him as a certain individual. He nearly gets killed, and then certain people that were calling him a bad monster are now support. And it's just a crazy, like, the media or social media, they can swing left or right within a heartbeat. And the person in the middle of that is pulled from pillar to post. One moment you're an angel, next moment you're Hitler, and then you're back to being an angel. And it's a real dangerous environment to be in the middle of.
Do you know what the funny thing is when you say that? It is really illuminating when you look at what media has done. Now, social media is one thing, right? But the media trained us on how to use social media. The media, like you've just said, can manipulate any single narrative that it wanted. Before social media, we had no way of knowing if we were being told the truth or not. And that's indoctrination into whatever they want to tell you. That's where most nationalism and all this sort of stuff comes from, isn't it? You believe that your country's enemies are your country's enemies. The only fucking facts you have in that are what the media told you. This was pre-internet, pre-social media. So we were manipulated from the get-go by those guys, and that goes for everything from fashion and trends and celebrity and crime and politics and all that stuff. You believe what you believe to be the truth because someone's told you it's the truth. Even the education system and all that sort of stuff. Like, we're so fixated on being individuals when really you're only an individual based on all the information someone else has given you, and a lot of that stuff is for a purpose. So the media, yeah, like you said, look, these are the same people that convinced everybody that two people's daughter getting kidnapped in the Algarve, Madeleine McCann, convinced them that they possibly could have killed the daughter themselves. Now, no one knows what the truth is there, but the reality is that if the girl was kidnapped, they're powerful enough to turn that story into that, to sell papers, and then turn it back again. You'll notice the media will change stories because they'll tell you one thing, sells a load of papers. Oh, we've done that now. Now we've got to pivot the story. Oh, maybe we'll make it look like this, look like this. It has to be extremes. So then when social media come around, we all kind of knew how to, one, promote ourselves, but tell stories and lie and manipulate and do all of these certain sorts of things because of what we were so used to reading in the media. You look at every single article that you'd ever used to read would have a sensational title, and then the rest of the whatever it would be, like the content of it would not even be that. It wouldn't be that crazy, or it'd be kind of like made up, or it's sort of extreme one way or the other. And I do wholeheartedly believe that now we've got social media, we show our own lives in the way that we're kind of a media outlet trying to convince people of something that's not necessarily the truth about ourselves. So, like, that is, you know, you look at Donald Trump, like you said, one thing, you never know what to believe with politics. But that kind of, in my head, what it looks like has happened is either that is something to do with sort of not dissimilar to JFK, potentially an inside job from an opposing party, or that was an assassination attempt from someone that was driven to it by media slander and all this sort of stuff. Because that can easily do that. If the media can make you happy to go to war and kill other people from another country for a reason you have no fucking idea really what the truth of that reason is, then of course the media can make you so fanatical about something that you'll go and try and shoot your president. Who's really to blame? Do you know what I mean? And that sort of stuff.
It's a massive topic, and I'm pretty sure if we wanted to do 10 episodes on this, it's just crazy. Going back to your modelling career, there's not many people, Jamie, that can say they were officially a Calvin Klein model. What was that like?
That was really fun. It was a hell of an experience. Outside of the stuff I said about the whole industry, I had a lot of fun. I've got so many amazing memories. A lot of it I can't remember because I was always pissed. But so many amazing memories to attribute to that career. I had a lot of, like, I lived in New York, used to fly around the world. Calvin Klein flew us to Rio de Janeiro, went to Shanghai. Like with them alone, like they used to fly us around to do shows and all that sort of stuff. Milan, Paris, London, like we're everywhere. Met some really great friends, had a lot of spare time, and I got paid really well. So yeah, I lived a crazy life. I met some crazy people. I rubbed shoulders with a lot of people. You get invited to all the parties. We basically be able to go out in New York at any club, anytime, straight to the front of the queue all the time. So loads of positives looking at it from like a fun perspective, but also that caused a lot of my resulting problems with myself, my health, drinking, habits, like, do you know what I mean? Stuff that sort of was residual from that to this day, like, I look back and go, yeah, that was an extreme life, and it gave me some extreme residing effects that I've had to sort of really unpick and get rid of. But yeah, it was unreal, mate. I've got some mad stories from that time. Mental. I mean, if I told half the stories from them, people would be like, not think I'm the lovely gentleman that I portrayed myself to be today. I was a bit of a toe rag back in the day, but then again, I was, like I said, I moved to New York when I was 17. I had my brother's ID that said I was 21. I looked just like him. So yeah, I just hit it pretty hard from a young age.
Fair enough.
But
So touching on the Love Island and obviously being on TV, it seems like that also was ultimately a really good good thing for you, because you've ended up with the wife, beautiful kids, and a really good core family lifestyle. But do you think, from a business point of view, social media point of view, was it worth it going on Love Island?
it's difficult because I never capitalised on it. So because I didn't really want to be in there, I didn't really have a plan for when I came out. And when I did come out, a lot of the opportunities that I were given relied on me speaking to the press and continuing the perception of being a celebrity, getting your name and face out there so then you can bring in more work. You have to play that game to be able to financially be rewarded from it. And I'll never forget, my family and my friends were pulling their fucking hair out because I weren't getting involved in it. So I weren't earning a lot of money. And Cam was the same as me as well, to be honest. We weren't that way inclined, and didn't really like to get involved in it a lot. So it was much more worth it from a personal growth perspective. It gave me my beautiful family and my wife, and it's caused a hell of a lot of happiness and change in me. And that's mainly meeting Cam, to be fair. But don't get me wrong, to this day, the audience I have from it, it allows me to turn my hand at certain things and start businesses. And it's obviously an audience that you can carry over to a business. That audience is unbelievably valuable. I didn't capitalise on it as much as I have or could have. And one thing I've noticed, like, people always say to me these days, I see so many more ads on your page. Since the kids have turned up, because now all of a sudden it's not about me. So yeah, it has been really, really beneficial to us. But to say, was it worth it? I was never going in there with the intention of that. And until my kids arrived, I never really capitalised on that anyway. And even to this day, most of my businesses are well away from all of it. All the stuff I do for one, and no one has a clue what I do. I don't share any of the stuff that I actually do on Instagram because, again, I don't like sharing. I just don't like sharing that sort of stuff. So I'll talk about it on here, but people won't have a clue about any of the stuff that I do for work or have done or plan to do. But since my kids have arrived, I'm much more okay with utilising that audience. And to be fair, what my audience want to see is our life. And my kids are my life. So sharing our family stuff's what does really well anyway. So yeah, it's kind of like, it is, I'll capitalise on it from a business perspective nowadays because of the kids, but like most of the time it's just like, if I have to post, it'll be a video of me and the kids or doing things day-to-day life that I actually do, but are just sort of not really about my business life. I don't know.
I want to ask about your business life, because even when I was doing a bit of research, it wasn't that clear online exactly what you do. But before we get there, bit more of a selfish question, because I'm a big boxing fan, and one of my favourite boxers on the face of the planet is clearly Floyd Mayweather. And you had a chance on episode number 6, Fighting on the Inside, with your podcast partner, Johnny Nelson. You got to interview this guy before their fight against Aaron Chalmers. Aaron Chalmers actually been on my podcast.
Yeah, he's a good lad.
He, I boxed my current gym, but I haven't been down there for a while because I've got tendonitis on my arm. Is a boxing booth where Josh Kelly is, Harlan Eubank, Mick Conlon, Shannon Courtney used to be down there, and Aaron was trained down. I sparred Aaron a couple of times. Yeah. And I like him a lot. I've got a lot of time for Aaron. When I found out who's fighting Floyd Mayweather, yes, it's an exhibition, but it's still a fight. I thought this was amazing. Then I come across the podcast. What was it like to interview Floyd Mayweather?
Right. I was buzzing. To be honest, I'm like, recently, because I've done a lot of interview stuff and podcasts, and I really enjoy that side of things, I wasn't as nervous as I thought I would be. And I think as well, because the whole podcast production was all mine, I produced the thing from start to finish, I kind of had a lot else to be thinking about rather than just the interview. So it kind of took I probably would have been really nervous if I had time to sit and think about what I was about to do. But he was brilliant. Do you know what he is? He's a politician. He answers every question, but he doesn't. Do you know what I mean? He'd give you the same stuff he always gives, but he's very respectful, very calm. But there is an incredible story around that interview that involved his team, and we basically got held in the building for like an hour or so with them trying to get money out of us. Yeah, it was a bit of a mix-up. It's hard. I don't know how much I'll go into it too much, but basically Johnny
extorted from Floyd Mayweather
in a roundabout way, unintentionally, possibly you could say. But he's obviously got the money team that are, for one word to use, pretty gang-like. In the way they operate, I don't know if they're a bunch of gangsters in the way they operate, but I've seen plenty of videos of them doing other stuff where I'm a little bit like, that's questionable. But we got this interview, and it was based on, Johnny was doing the commentating for that fight. So he asked if we could get an interview. And he said, yeah. But it wasn't with Floyd he was speaking to one of the money team. Now, the money team, from as far as I understand, independently organise things for him. And they'll organise it for like cash payments or payments, and they'll be able to keep most of it or a cut of it, and Floyd gets the rest. So they're all like, it's, you know, so they can all have a part of the business and a share of things. He lets them, you know, sign-ins and bits and bobs like that. I'm assuming that's how it works, and that's how I've heard it works. Like, so they can all set things up and get a little piece of the pie, but he ultimately gets the money at the end of it. So he had organised this with one of the money team. That person said that you need to pay, and it was quite a bit of money. And he was like, I'm not paying for it, but I've got someone that might want to interview. So how about if I get him to interview, then will he do ours as well? And he's like, okay, this is how much it will be for that interview, and then he'll do yours. So they all let us in. We set up, we wait for Floyd. Floyd turns up, does the interview. Super fucking accommodating, signing 4 or 5 gloves for us, all of this sort of stuff. It's brilliant. And then afterwards, the geezer comes back to Johnny and he's like, where's the money? And he's like, the other fella that you were supposed to let in. Johnny looks at his phone, and they wouldn't let him in, saying that he's there to interview Floyd. We were doing the interview at the time, but all the other lot, that obviously the guy that he'd organised it with hadn't told the other 40 of the money team that he had organised it. So they weren't letting this fella in the building. This fella was trying to call Johnny. We were in the interview. So eventually he went home, and he was the guy that was having the paid interview. So we tried to explain that, and they were like, not having none of it. They were like, no, you got to pay us. So eventually, yeah, we kind of got kept in the room. I told the lads to take the SD cards out of the cameras just in case they took all the equipment and stuff like that. But it got pretty pretty nasty.
Really?
Yeah, for about an hour or so, we were locked in the back room of that. Like, not locked physically, but they were all, and we were stuck in there. We were just sort of, and Johnny was arguing and it was mental. Comes to about an hour later, Johnny comes back and goes, "We got to get out of here," and we all just sort of slipped out the back door and run off with all the equipment. And then I was driving home thinking, what just happened? But interestingly, you have no idea how much Floyd has anything to do with or even knows that stuff like that. Because it was a misunderstanding at the end of the day, but it wasn't our fault. It was ultimately their fault for not communicating, letting this guy in. But either way, it got pretty fucking heated. And yeah, we were in there we were supposed to be leaving. We couldn't leave for about an hour and a bit because it was all kicking off.
So there was nearly a mass brawl with the money team.
It would have been me, Owen running fucking white collar influencer boxing, and then Johnny Nelson, sort of not saying you're over the hill, Johnny, but a little bit older. Johnny would have done a few of them. I reckon I'd have got floored, probably by the smallest one. But yeah, it was mental. Yeah, I've never told that story, but yeah, it's a funny one.
Are we going to see that?
Trouble.
Are we going to see that podcast back on the road?
You will. So that is another one of the businesses we were building, but we sort of put that on hold to expand the business in a load of different other ways. Created some really great concepts, got some attention from some investors. Some conversations went on for a long, long time about a really large investment into the company to be able to build not only that podcast, but do a docu-series. We were speaking to ITV Studios a bit, and talks with Netflix, some streaming platforms about this docu-series. And then obviously building out the YouTube. So it was not only that podcast, it was going to be a couple of other things like a funny comedy panel show and bits and bobs like that. But the conversations went on for so long with these investors, eventually with the investment didn't come, and now I've kind of gone my separate ways with my business partner on that one. But I am absolutely going to continue boxing media, and I'm actually talking to somebody now about potentially getting it all up and running there, because it's my passion. It's something I love. I love doing the interviews. I love interviewing fighters, but I also see that in boxing there is a huge gap or a huge opportunity to create much more interesting, entertaining content. Like Fighting the Inside was a serious conversation. I'm more veering now towards really clever ways of creating funny comedy panel shows, incorporating sort of other celebrities, comedians, stuff like that in a really fun game show sort of setting, as well as amateurs sort of folding in sort of amateur interviews and helping some of the lads coming through, building like a really great boxing media company that sort of rivals that of what you see nowadays. Because a lot of it now is just backstage interviews or the same questions and answers you see everywhere. It's about making something a little bit different. So that's a project I'm working on at the moment, and I'm in talks with somebody else, another streaming platform, to create all of that. So you'll definitely see more from me in that world. Will it be that podcast? Probably not. I'd say much more, leaning more towards entertainment and less serious conversation.
Okay. So bar the media podcasting type business, is there anything else that you're up to right now or about to plug into? Yeah.
So a good friend of mine he's a S&C coach in boxing, funny enough, trains Conor Benn and people like that. A few matchroom fighters. Me and him are about to embark on a really cool project, and it's all about parenting, health, mental health, looking after everything we talked about before. But it's kind of talking about when you're a dad or when you're getting older. It's for everyone, but it's got an emphasis on what we were discussing. When you get to that age where things usually go downhill, 9 times out of 10 is because you've been eating such crap and looking after yourself in a bad way that you age quickly. When things start to slow down, they slow down at an accelerated pace. You can turn all of that around, and like you've said, you've got these Eddie Hearns and that are looking and feeling amazing because it's never too late for their stuff. You'll age as quick as you let yourself. I really do believe that. But it's all about parenting and giving yourself, fit your mask before you can fit others. Look after yourself and you'll have your best chance of being the best dad or partner or whatever it is that you can be. I won't say too much about it because we haven't made it yet, but it's going to be kind of a hybrid entertainment platform and online coaching platform where you can get really sort of high profile professional advice based in a really good community setting, with a good niche conversation around it as well. So that's something I'm working on at the minute. And also myself and Camilla are building 8 eco houses in Essex. So we moved into a house with some land on the back, and we've just put in for planning for, well, we already had put in for planning for 8 houses that are fully solar powered. Got some incredible technology in them, and that's with a company called My Energy, that I've spoken to and known for quite a while. So we want to build, we're starting a company that builds and focuses on building really renewable source, green building projects. And that's our first. We got refused in planning by the local council. We kind of were expecting that, but we're going to appeal on it now. We were really suspiciously treated and a lot of that, and our local council's known for being difficult. But it's everything that the government are saying that they want, and some, like in terms of how high spec these will be from an eco-friendly standpoint. And it's a massive passion of mine in CAMS to sort of raise the kids and teach them that will show them that we've done something with a positive impact. And these houses are going to be pretty much free to live in. If we end up doing the wind power as well as the solar power that we have planned, then they'll be off grid and you'll earn money for living in them rather than paying anything for the bills. So they're really impressive. And yeah, we want to sort of go around, buy plots and create sort of a really impressive little, like, what would you call them, like groups of houses that not only live independently of the grid but give back into the grid with renewable energy. So kind of little mini power plants that are also
full autonomy in the house.
Full autonomy for the actual person that lives in it, but also excess solar generation that can be put back into the grid to help the country go closer to net zero. And that can be done because the technology nowadays is going mad. So some of the stuff that we're looking at putting into these things, some of it's not out yet, but you know, we're looking right into everything we can. So the more we build, hopefully we'll be sort of ahead of the curve of building really, really impressive stuff on that front. So that's another thing we're doing.
I know you've got to shoot off pretty soon, so I want to wrap up this podcast by asking the last question. So when I first got into business for myself, about 24 years of age, had a sales company. Most of the people in that sales company were young men. There was a few females, but mostly alpha type male type geezers. And I come up with a bit of a catchphrase or this kind of tagline to kind of try and keep people a little bit in check, a bit like a lifestyle thing. It goes like this: be happy, never content. Mm-hmm. Now I've got my own version of what that means, but if I was to ask Jamie Jewitt, what does be happy, never content mean to you?
Be happy, never content means focus on your happiness and everything that you need to do to get there, but don't ever get complacent, because life moves, changes, evolves, throws things at you. You have to adapt, you have to change. You can't just ever get complacent doing anything, and that goes the same with your family. You can't get complacent with a toddler, because your toddler turns into a teenager and there's a whole new set of challenges. You can't get complacent in business because the market's changed and that's a whole new set of challenges. But fundamentally, if you want to be a success at any of those things, if you're not happy, you're going to struggle at that. So focus on your happiness, never become complacent, and you'll be ready for any challenge.
Excellent answer, mate. Thank you very much for your time.
That's a good saying.
Appreciate it. Nice one, Jamie. Thank you very much, and be happy, never content.